All right, Charm City Birdwatch, episode 128. It's Tuesday, early afternoon. Had a little bit of time to digest this Sunday night loss to the Patriots, and I'm flying solo this week. Tried to get Jake in here. It's a busy week for him, finals week for him. You know how it is. Tried to get him in here, a little too hectic for him this week, so I'll fly solo. That's okay. One of my biggest takeaways from this game is, I couldn't care less about the loss. It is what it is. It happens. You're going to lose a game. You're 6-3. So what? Was this a game you were expected to win? We all had high expectations. A lot of us, myself included, were picking a large margin of victory here for the Ravens. It didn't happen. It is what it is. You lost the game. So what? My biggest concern is the injuries. And coming into this game, we knew that Jimmy Smith was out. He wasn't going to play after being on the injury report pretty much, I think, every single week of the season. He finally missed his first game. So not great, but considering, you had him, it was very important for the Ravens to field him last week with Marlon Humphrey out, and he was able to go, and he played a great game. Marlon Humphrey comes back this week. Jimmy can't go. Would have loved to have had him out there, but again, with Marlon coming back, it's not as dire for him to be out there. And you're willing to say, okay, take a rest week. Let's make sure you're closer to 100% coming back the following week. That's a concerning thing right off the bat. We knew Calais Campbell wasn't going to play after the injury he suffered last week early in that Colts game. So now you're down two of your starting defensive players, two of your best defensive players. We already know that Ronnie Stanley's out for the year. Tyree Phillips wasn't able to go again. Injuries starting to mount up higher and higher, and at a certain point, it reaches a tipping point, basically, and we sort of saw that in this one. And I was trying to think of the best way to go through this game, and I figured it was just best to go through it chronologically, but I wanted to open by talking about those injuries because this is sort of the Ravens are sort of at a crossroads right now in terms of the injuries. Nick Boyle goes down for the year. Arguably the ugliest injury we've seen in the entire NFL this year. I know Dak Prescott comes to mind, but that one's not pretty to look at either. But this one here where you hit the freeze frame and Nick Boyle's knee is going the wrong direction, that's as ugly as it gets. So, and as soon as it happens, you've got Patriots players signaling to the Ravens sideline, hey, get your medical team out here. That's as ugly as it gets. So you lose Nick Boyle for the season. Arguably one of the most essential guys to the offense, the style of offense that you run. And now you combine that with the fact that you don't have Ronnie Stanley. That's maybe your two best blockers. Might be your two best blockers on your team. All around, run game and pass game. To be without them moving forward, it's devastating. There's no other way to say it. So the injuries are starting to mount. And you see it, Terrell Bonds, he's getting thrown into the fire again this week. He goes down with an injury. I believe he was carted off as well. No indication that that's anything close to what we saw with Boyle yet. Season ending is not what's being said for him, but he's going to miss some time. We know that. And it's sort of, like what we saw with Anthony Averett. He's going to miss some time. When can he come back? I mean, if you would have told Ravens fans after that, the Texans game where Tavon Young went down and Anthony Averett gets thrown into the fire mid-game, gets burnt a little bit, but overall holds up. If you would have told Ravens fans that they would have been, begging for Anthony Averett to come off of IR or come off of the injury report heading into Week 11, I don't think many people would have believed you. But here we are. And it's just that they keep piling up. And at a certain point, when does it become too much to overcome? I know this is a very talented team. They can certainly overcome it. But you're talking about super essential people here with Boyle, Stanley, Campbell. Now, Williams goes down. How could I forget Brandon Williams? He goes down early in this game. Run defense takes a massive hit. It's not looking good. Williams might not be back this week. We know Campbell probably won't be back this week. What's the run game or the run defense going to look like moving forward? It's just everything's very shaky right now. So, again, I couldn't care less about the loss. It happens. They were going to lose. They weren't going to run the table. I know everyone, last year, 12 wins in a row. They weren't going to run the table, okay? Should they have beaten the Patriots? Probably, yes. It's whatever. You lose a game. It's not the end of the world. They're still a good to decently good football team, but the injuries is the biggest concern for me. But let's get into the game, because right off the bat is the Patriots' run game. Look, we know they don't have any weapons through the air. Julian Edelman on IR. He's not playing. I couldn't even tell you the names of the Patriots receivers heading into this one. So as much as Cam Newton has been, ridiculed and criticized this year for his play, and deservedly so at times, he really has zero help. I mean, you want to talk about a guy that is capable of doing a lot. Former MVP, led the Panthers to a Super Bowl. Superman, we know what Cam Newton is. He's coming back from the injuries, so there's still question marks in that regard, but we know what Cam Newton has been in this league. So to give him zero help, it really, the criticism at times is a bit much, I think. Because if he had anything halfway decent around him, I think you'd be seeing much better numbers from him. But nonetheless, we knew coming in that they were going to try to run the ball. You get the bad weather conditions, even more reason to run the ball. So everyone knows what's coming. They're going to run the ball, and the Ravens defense had no answer for it. Even the few plays that Brandon Williams was out there, they got gashed. He goes down. It gets even worse. To open up the game like that, where the Patriots are getting 5 yards a carry easily, it's concerning, because that was a strong suit for this Ravens defense. And there's been a lot of strengths for this Ravens defense this year, but I've been harping on it time and time again, just how strong this rush defense is and how important that is to making the opponent one-dimensional. If the offense starts rolling for you and putting up points, now you're in a great situation where in the second half, they're going to pass. They're going to pass pretty much every time they run a play. Now you can get your pass rush going and try to get after the quarterback, get some sacks, force some more turnovers, that sort of thing. But in this one, they get the run game going. Now there's no reason for them to pass. And again, it comes back to the weather. They don't have a reason to pass. They're going to keep running the ball. Ravens couldn't stop them. Couldn't stop them up the middle. Couldn't stop them to the outside. It's looking pretty ugly. And thankfully, Lamar early on led the Ravens offense on a touchdown drive. That helps. They're in it. They're not down. They're not behind the eight ball too much, so to speak, but they did end up getting there early in the second half. 173 yards for this guy. And again, I got to look up his name here. Damian Harris. How many people coming into this game knew who Damian Harris was? I will put my hand up and say, no, I had not been watching enough Patriots games this year to know Damian Harris. I knew Rex Burkhead. He added 31 yards on 6 carries, but Damian Harris, 22 carries, 121 yards. Both him and Burkhead averaging over 5 yards a carry. Cam Newton, just under 2 yards a carry. He had 11, chased out of the pocket, I'm assuming, a couple times. And even his designed runs, I thought the Ravens did a good job containing Cam when he decided to take off and run. I mean, there was that one early on in the game where he kind of laid into Deshaun Elliott a little bit and knocked him off his feet, which was a little surprising to see Deshaun Elliott be on the other end of a big hit. But overall, Cam Newton, I think, was neutralized in terms of the run game. But couldn't stop Harris. Burkhead changed it up quite a bit out of the backfield. You couldn't shut him down in the run. You couldn't make Cam Newton throw. And that was just a terrible way to start the game. And you knew right from the jump of those first couple drives that, all right, the Patriots are going to be in this one. Unless the Ravens can force, a game-breaking turnover, which we know they're certainly capable of with Marlon Humphrey out there, with Marcus Peters out there. But now you're sort of relying on that to, change the tempo of this game. To move on, that was early in the game. You have the trick play. Ravens find themselves down 13-10 after the trick play. They got a touchdown. They got a field goal drive. Both those drives, pretty good, moving the ball down the field. You had the one completed with a little hot potato pop pass to Willie Snead. He gets the touchdown. You go on another drive, kick a field goal. So you're up 10-7. We have this trick play, touchdown, and you knew they were going to pull it out at some point. You knew Bill Belichick, just with the history here, going back to that 2014 playoff game, and even before that, I think some of their previous playoff meetings, there's been this sort of, I don't want to say chirping back and forth between him and Harbaugh, but there has been this sort of mind games. We know they like to play mind games with each other, and right now everyone's saying Bill Belichick got the best of Harbaugh again. There's no disputing that Bill Belichick's the greatest coach of all time, and he's no stranger to doing this, but we've seen him. He had a little back and forth with one of his former players, Mike Vrabel, now the head coach of the Titans. They had a little back and forth in their playoff game last year where Vrabel was pulling out that clock manipulation stuff late in the game to give his team an advantage. You knew it was coming, especially given the records coming in. They're 3-5. Like I said before, they're a little more willing to try something like that. And I do have to give the Ravens defense credit because after the game, I guess it was Chuck Clark, some other people said, look, we knew that. We studied game film. We knew that they're capable of running a trick play like that. We got to be ready for it. And you watch that play. It was a beautiful pass, converted for a touchdown. It was beautifully run where not only do you have the pseudo screen pass, all right, you get the defense to bite a little bit in that regard. They think it's a screen. Jacoby Myers throws the pass to the end zone, trying to hit Burkhead, and he delivers a beautiful pass. I mean, it was an absolute dime, perfect location. Burkhead runs right under it. But the defense didn't, you go back to the last time the Patriots ran the trick play, and it's the famous one from the 2014 playoffs, Amendola to Edelman. He gets the defense to bite, goes deep for the touchdown. He's uncovered. The defense didn't bite in that regard. I mean, Patrick Queen was right there. He was right on Burkhead, but you got a linebacker, a rookie linebacker at that, backpedaling 20 yards downfield and trying to cover a guy one-on-one in the end zone. That's just not a situation that Patrick Queen has been in many times. Probably not in college, certainly not in the NFL so far. I thought it was a great choice by the Patriots to try to, I'm sure they knew in that situation that either Patrick Queen or Malik Harrison was going to be on, or Chris Ford even was going to be covering Rex Burkhead, or the running back at that time, a young linebacker. Let's try to attack him. And to Patrick Queen's credit, he was there, but he's probably saying to himself in the end zone, oh my God, the ball is coming my way. I'm covering a guy one-on-one in the end zone, and I'm backpedaling 20 yards downfield. And it's just one small mistake. He's right there, and he can't make the play. You can't lay out, can't bat the ball down. He's in position to do it. It's not like he got burned. It's not like the Ravens defense got completely tricked. They were in position, just couldn't make the play. And it was perfectly executed to the Patriots' credit. Jacoby Myers, look, the Sunday Night Football crew loved it. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, they were going nuts. It is what it is. That's tip your cap. They ran the play perfect, got a touchdown out of it, missed the extra point, so you're only up 3. Patriots are only up 3. So now, hey, if you're the Ravens, look, things are not going your way. You're getting the ball run on you. Defense does not look good, but the offense is keeping pace. You're down by 3. You got a minute to go here in the half. All 3 timeouts. Perfect situation to go down the field, get a field goal. And the offense is starting to drive. They're moving the ball, getting a couple out-of-bounds plays across the middle, used 2 of their timeouts. Now they're on the fringe of field goal range with Justin Tucker, the best in the business. And this is where we have our first just killer play. As bad as the first half was, with everything I just said, you're right here. You got the best kicker in the league. The weather conditions are not great, but he's still the best. You like his odds. You got one timeout left, like 20, 25 seconds. Just get one more play. The middle of the field is an option because you still have the timeout. Get 10, 15, 20 yards maybe. Send him out there. I like my odds in that scenario to tie the game up. And what do? This is Lamar making one of really two mistakes in this game, and this was a really bad one, but we'll get into the way Lamar played as a whole later. This was just a terrible mistake. I don't know if this was, again, there's a lot of blame going around here. You all know what the play is. Lamar takes a deep shot down the sideline to Hollywood Brown. He's in single covered. J.C. Jackson gets the interception. What is it? His fifth frickin' game in a row with an interception for that guy. He's going nuts for the Patriots defense. One-on-one coverage. Intercepted down the sideline. Now you're off the field. Now you got no points. You decided to take a shot down the field and play for a touchdown, and now you get no points. So this was terrible, and it's not even a hindsight thing. I mean, you just have to know the situation. 20 seconds left, timeout in your pocket, just get one more chunk yard play, kick the field goal, and now it's tied 13-13 at the half. It's 0-0. You regroup, gather the troops. Look at the way they regrouped at halftime against the Colts. They're certainly capable of it. Regroup, rally, come out in the second half, play better. And what do? You shoot yourself in the foot by going down the sideline. So there's a lot of blame going around on this play. Lamar's getting blame. That's who I'm blaming on this play. Now, I don't know the full story, but for Lamar to even take this shot downfield, I think is stupid. Don't throw the ball. Don't throw the ball to Hollywood, especially when okay, let's say, here's the person number 2 who could be blamed is Greg Roman, and he's everyone's favorite scapegoat right now. Let's say this play was designed where Hollywood is the primary route, the primary receiver, the first read. That's who this play is designed to go to. Greg Roman would deserve blame in that scenario. But even if that's the case, there are other options. That is not a play. You don't run a play with just one option, and if that doesn't work, you say, all right, well, we give up on this play. I'm throwing it out of bounds. I'm taking a sack, whatever it is. There's other receivers out there. There's other reads. For Lamar, even if that play was designed to go deep to Hollywood, Lamar as a quarterback, as a leader of this team, has to say, all right, I'm not opposed to going deep here, but I'm going to take my drop. I'm going to look downfield. And you can tell, he receives the snap. He's staring down Hollywood. He's staring down that sideline the entire time. You got to be seeing that Hollywood's getting pinched there. He got pinched earlier in the game down the sideline where McCourty was covering him. And it was just beautifully done by a veteran defender like McCourty. Knows that he's got a size advantage over Hollywood. He knows Hollywood's not going to go up and Randy Moss him and catch the ball over his head. He's just got to keep him behind him and pinch him with the sideline and slowly force him to run out of bounds. And now he's not even in a position to make the play. And it's so easy to do that with a receiver like Hollywood, who's 5'9", 5'10", maybe weighs 60, 70 pounds soaking wet with a brick in his pocket. He's not that type of receiver. So, yes, I can see this in the first place. My blame goes to Lamar for throwing the ball. Even if that play was designed for Hollywood all the way, you got to look at that situation, especially after what happened earlier in the game where he got pinched down the sideline, and say, all right, I'm not throwing that ball. We're not going to make this play. Let me look to my other options. Do I have someone underneath? Do I have Gus, Dobbins, whoever for the check down? Do I have someone? Can I throw it away and let's regroup? Let's reset, run another play. Do I scramble even? I mean, there's so many options when Lamar drops back. So a lot of blame for me is going towards Lamar to make that throw. You just can't do it. Running Hollywood, and this is, I'm going to go off on a tangent here, because everyone's yapping about Hollywood after he had that Twitter comment after the Steelers game. Didn't get as many targets as he would have liked. said basically something to the effect of, you're not using your best weapons. What good are your best weapons when you don't use them? And look, John Harbaugh wasn't happy, but they handled it well in the media. He deleted the tweet. You move on. Everyone's getting on his case. Oh, Hollywood can't get open. That's why he's not getting the ball thrown his way, because he stinks. He can't get separation. He's not a good receiver. He was way overhyped in the offseason. We were buying too much into him adding muscle and everything. Look, enough with your hot takes. Enough with your knee-jerk reactions. Marquise Brown is a damn good receiver. A damn good receiver that any team in this league would love to have. That skill set. Look, you're saying, oh, why didn't teams draft him before the Ravens got him in the draft a couple years ago? Look at the injury, the Liz Frank. That's a serious injury that can linger for you years down the road. I mean, Ravens knew in-house just how difficult that is to rehab from. Look at Jimmy Smith. He had that injury. He could tell you firsthand just how difficult it is to rehab from that injury. Not impossible, but when you're drafting a guy in the first round, it's sort of a red flag that pops up when you're drafting a guy who has an injury that he's still coming back from. And the fact that he played as well as he did with a screw in his foot last year, and we saw that what we thought was top flight speed last year with a screw in his foot, now he fully recovers from that, gets the screw taken out, fully healed, fully rehabbed. He adds all the muscle. How could you not be hyped up? And now coming into the season, he's not putting up the numbers. They're running him on a lot of these go routes. That's fine. We saw him get separation last year, but something's changed this year. He's not getting as much separation. Maybe the defense is giving more safety help when they see him streaking down the field. It is what it is. There's so many variables. I think you got to draw up plays to get him involved. You don't run Tyreek Hill on exclusively go routes. The Chiefs don't do that. They know better. With Tyreek Hill's size and his speed, you utilize that skill set. That's a unique skill set that not a lot of receivers in this league have. You'd love to have a guy that can go up and get it. But Hollywood's not built for that. Don't make him run those plays. Draw up screens for him. Quick slants, even. Simple stuff. He is a guy that you can hit on a quick pass and just let him go. Let's say you're in a scenario where the defense is playing zone. Perfect scenario. Let's draw up a play for Hollywood to get on a quick slant. Let's feed him the ball and then let him hit that top flight speed and make that defense backpedal and fall over and look silly. I mean, it just seems so simple to utilize him in that way, and the Ravens aren't doing it. Greg Roman isn't doing it. So in that regard, I will place blame on Greg Roman. But I'm not down on Marquise Brown right now. Were we expecting much better things this year? Absolutely. Coming back from the injury, adding the muscle, all that stuff. We were expecting better numbers. It hasn't happened. I'm not giving up on him. There's no reason to. Based on what we've seen just a couple of years ago with Ravens receivers, it can be worse. If you're sitting there saying, how can it be worse? You clearly weren't a Ravens fan just 2-3 years ago. It can be a lot worse. It can be a way worse. It doesn't help when you look at your receiver group and the personnel you have is a possession receiver like Willie Snead, who's best operating out of the slot. Look, we can rename this the Willie Snead podcast with how much I can praise him the past couple weeks. He's balling out. I mean, he's showing up big time. I keep saying it time and time again. Ravens fans need to put more respect on Willie Snead's name because that guy is he's a baller. He catches the ball. He grinds out the tough yards. When he gets the ball, he knows exactly where he needs to go for the first down. He's just a scrappy veteran guy, not afraid of contact. Love to have a guy like that. But he operates primarily out of the slot. So that, decreases the amount of times that Hollywood can operate inside or operate out of the slot, which might be more ideal for him than, trying to be a sideline guy. You got Miles Boykin, who, as much as I want to, I've defended him at times on this podcast, he's just, for whatever reason, he's not the guy. They don't draw up plays for him. They don't trust him. Lamar doesn't go to him. There's plenty of reasons. He can't get open, whatever it is. He's got the size, but he just doesn't have targets for whatever reason. They don't go his way. So he's out of the question. And you got Devin Duvernay, who is bigger than Hollywood, got a little more size, but he's not necessarily an outside guy. And maybe even if he becomes one later in his career, he's just not that guy right now because he's a rookie and he's still trying to get snaps and he's just trying to learn the offense and get plays under his belt. You have too many guys right now that would probably benefit from playing inside. And at that point, I can see why you're at a disadvantage where you have to line Hollywood up outside sometimes. And he's just not going to succeed out there. So moving forward, that's something that you're certainly going to have to hopefully address in the offseason. You can bring in another typical big-bodied type receiver for the outside, whether it's through the draft or free agency, and then maybe start using Hollywood more inside. That would be my thought. That's not, a simple fix that's going to change everything, but from my perspective, I think it would certainly help quite a bit. And one last thing while we're on the receiver group, Dez Bryant not active for this game. I don't know what's going on. He's active last week against the Colts for some reason, way sooner than we all expected. Only plays 2 snaps, no targets, obviously. And now he's not active for this one. So I don't know what's going on with him. I trust the Ravens coaching staff. There's a reason he's not active. They don't think he's ready, but he was active last week, but you didn't play him at all. So I don't know what's going on. Hopefully somewhere down the road he can get out there and start, getting plays drawn up for him, or just really be out there for offensive plays for a majority of the game. And maybe at the very least at that point, having Dez Bryant as a presence out there, as an outside presence. You can line him up outside. Now you can have Hollywood come inside a little bit more. Now you can move Hollywood really anywhere. He's not the player that he is, and it goes back to my point with the skill set that he has. You don't lock him into a certain, side of the field. You don't lock him into a certain, an outside guy. You don't lock him into that. You use him outside. Use him inside. Use him running end arounds in the backfield. He has such a unique skill set, and I feel like Greg Roman and the coaching staff and the Ravens as a whole are not tapping into it fully, especially now that he's completely healthy. I got off on a big tangent there, but again, Lamar shouldn't have thrown that ball. Ends in an interception. You go to the half down 3. Patriots open the second half, and you're thinking, all right, well, can they regroup? Can they rebound? Can they do what they did against the Patriots? Make halftime adjustments on both sides of the ball, but particularly on defense, and no, they did not. Patriots opened the second half, 4 plays, 75 yards, touchdown, took less than 2 minutes. Whew, that was bad. That was embarrassing. Defense looked like they did not want to be out there. That did not look like a Ravens defense. That did not look like a Wink Martindale defense. That looked pathetic. And at that moment, they're down 10. What do you do on your ensuing possession? This is where I've got a bone to pick, and this is where we're going to get into Greg Roman once again. And he's getting a lot of the criticism thrown his way, and look, rightfully so. But I'm going to try to have a level-headed approach to this when it comes to Greg Roman. So you have the ensuing possession after the touchdown. You're down 10. Second half has just started. Lamar and the offense get out there. It's a slow start to the drive. You quickly find yourself in a 3rd and short situation, and it's probably 3rd and 3, I think. Not anything too crazy. It's not 3rd and long. It's 3rd and 3. You can pick this up. You can run the ball here. You can pass the ball. You can have Lamar do his crazy Lamar stuff, read option, whatever. Lamar can roll out and look to pass, and he could scramble. So there's so many things that could happen here. Should be an easy thing to pick up for this offense with the personnel that they have. And the play call that gets drawn up here is just so moronic. No, I'm not talking about the 4th and 1 play. We'll get to that in a second. I've got a bone to pick with the 3rd and 3 play. Lamar receives the direct snap, I believe, with an empty backfield. So right off the bat, running an empty backfield on 3rd and 3, what are you doing? No one motions back into the backfield, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong. Nonetheless, Lamar receives the snap. There's no read option. There's nobody there to, is he going to hand it off or is he going to keep it? There's none of that. He immediately doesn't even feign or fake like he's going to pass. He immediately tucks the ball and runs to the outside. And yes, it's only 3 yards. And yes, Lamar is one of the fastest guys in the NFL, and we've seen him hit the outside and do that plenty of times in his career. But the defense immediately knows. All the linebackers start heading that way. All the defensive backs start heading that way. And they sell out on it, and he gets to the outside, and there's just a swarm of defenders there. He's got no chance of getting this first down. And to Lamar's credit, he just beelines for the pylon, or not the pylon, but the sticks, the first down marker, and he, reaches the ball out, kind of gives one last burst, one last leap. And credit to him for coming as close as he did to getting a first down there, because that it was just such a boneheaded play. I mean, how do you draw up that direct, snap to Lamar? He's going to carry it the entire way. You're trying to get 3 yards. You're relying on your blockers to finish there, and they did a okay job, but the defense knows what's coming. They swarm to the ball. You don't have enough blockers there to defend. So for Lamar to get within a yard of the first down, credit to him. You have a 4th and 1 here. Shouldn't have even been a 4th down situation. Should have just been a first down. Should have ran any other play and picked up the first down and kept the drive going. But now you're 4th and 1 in your own territory. John Harbaugh, with the consulting of, I'm sure, the Ravens booth and their analytics guys and whatnot, decide to go for it. I like the call. Game flow, everything that's happening, this would have been, I believe, a quick 3 and out had you decided to punt. Your defense can't stop a nosebleed right now. You're down 10 on the road, you got to go for it. So I support going for it. I support that decision. I think most Ravens fans would agree and have no problem with that. 4th and 1, they can get this. And what do? What does Greg Roman draw up on 4th and 1 in your own territory? This is, right now, if you do not get this first down, the Patriots take over on downs, already in your territory, already on the fringe of field goal range, up 10. This is likely for the game. You decide to run a wildcat. You decide to have Lamar Jackson, the 2019 MVP of the NFL, line up as a wide receiver. I see 4th and 1. I look up at my screen, and I see Mark Ingram standing there in an empty backfield in a shotgun. I mean, he is so far downfield. I mean, I'd have to rewatch it. I really don't want to, as ugly as it was. But he is so far behind the center that I don't know what play call they were going to run there, if it was going to be the same thing that they ran, the same exact play they ran against the Texans on that 4th and 1 where Mark Ingram took it all the way for a touchdown. I don't know if it was going to be that exact play or if he was going to throw it or if somebody was going to come in motion. I don't know. But he was in an empty backfield, and look, we know at Matt Skura, a terrible snap. The play has no chance of being anything as soon as that happened. But you took Lamar out of the play. You lined him up at wide receiver. The MVP of the league, on a 4th and 1 play, do or die, you have to get this, and you don't put the ball in the hands of your MVP. It's just inexcusable. It can't happen. It's way overthinking things. Even if that play worked, it would have been stupid. Greg Roman deserves all of the hate, all of the criticism that is coming his way. I think the hate mob towards him as a whole this year has been a little blown out of proportion, but when you pull something like this, it's hard to defend him. It's hard to say otherwise. I mean, if I'm being honest, I thought the game plans against the Steelers and against the Colts, especially in the second half, were really well done. I give Greg Roman credit. I thought the game plans against the Steelers and the Colts were well done. And really, as a whole here, I thought the game plan against the Patriots was pretty solid. This was just such a standout play that was so stupid that it sort of puts a damper on everything else that you do in the game. So I'm not denying that, but I got to be honest, when it comes to Greg Roman, I haven't had major concerns when it comes to play calling. When it comes to scheming, look, I already talked about the way they're using Hollywood. That's a whole different thing. But in terms of play calling and committing to the run, they did that against Pittsburgh. They ran a great up-tempo offense in the second half against the Colts, something we hadn't seen them do. And yet all we hear throughout the week is he's so vanilla, this, that, the other thing. The defense knows what's coming. At this point, the hate mob towards Greg Roman, he's a scapegoat. He's an easy scapegoat because no one wants to blame Lamar. How could you blame Lamar? He's the MVP of the league. He's way above criticism. In my mind, I'm going to get into it here in a second. Lamar played a great game, in my opinion. He's not above criticism, but in this one, he's not the issue. But you go back to that Pittsburgh game. Lamar was the issue with the turnovers. He deserved all the criticism in the world for that. But this fan base has such a big affection for Lamar, and rightfully so. Everything that he's done to change this franchise and being the MVP last year and all that, it's deserved. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league for sure. But that just automatically everyone's like, oh, it's play calling. Oh, it's Greg Roman. Something bad happens. It's Greg Roman. That's just not how football works. It's a team effort. There's blame to go around everywhere. You can't pin it on one singular person. That's the point I'm making. And for all the people saying, fire Greg Roman, he's not getting fired midseason. I got news for you. That's not happening. All right? He's not getting fired midseason. And when it comes to the end of the season, everyone's saying, oh, fire him, move on, find someone else. I got good news and I got bad news for you. Good news is he's not going to be here next year. I agree with you in that. But bad news is you're not going to get your wish. He's not getting fired. He's going to be a head coach next year. Greg Roman will be a head coach in the NFL next year. Maybe it's the Texans. Maybe it's the Jets. There will be a bunch of other vacancies that open up for sure. It happens every year. Black Monday in the NFL. Monday after the final week of the season. Bad teams fire their head coach. Greg Roman got head coaching offers last year. He turned them down, came back to the Ravens. Kind of surprising. He's going to be a head coach next year. So before the Ravens can even think or even consider firing and getting rid of Greg Roman, he's out the door. He's in a job interview. He's going to have we see it every year. He's going to have job interview offers when the playoffs start. The reports are going to come out. The New York Jets, the Houston Texans have requested to interview with Greg Roman. To all the fans out there that hate him and want him gone, you will get your wish, but it won't be satisfying. I'll tell you that. There's going to be no satisfying you're fired moment. He's getting a head coaching job and saying, hey, guess what? I quit. So let's get into Lamar. Well, let's get into Lamar because I got to talk about something good here. And in the second half, he only had the one touchdown drive. But as a whole, I will say, impressed with the way Lamar Jackson played on Sunday. Given the circumstances and the torrential downpour that was taking place, this is a guy just a couple of years ago we were talking about he's got serious fumbling issues and he can't hold on to the ball. This is 2018 I'm talking about. Second half down the stretch, he's doing unique things. The defense is caught off guard. They don't know quite what's coming. There's no tape, obviously, on him at that point. But so many fumbles. I mean, God, that was just the biggest thing against him. And he comes out last year, completely eliminates the fumbles. I mean, there were fumbles at certain points, but it was night and day difference between 2018 and 2019 in that regard. So you look at a game where the weather's like this, and you're saying, well, I don't know, things could get dicey. The ball might pop out. The ball might hit the turf. We'll see. The Ravens like to run the ball. Maybe they should do that. And they were more balanced, but I can't blame them. Like I said, I didn't think the game plan was that bad. They were throwing the ball. Lamar was delivering strikes. Lamar was putting passes on the money, hitting guys right in the chest, had some drops in the second half. That's obviously not on him. With the weather being bad, and then obviously you got to the very last drive of the game. I don't know how you could have, it sucks because you were within 6 and you could have won, technically, but no timeouts. It just turns into an absolute monsoon. I don't know how you could do anything but laugh in that scenario. I was. After all the bad stuff that happened, you're looking at that drive. I just started laughing. I said, oh, here we go. The odds are already not in your favor. No timeouts. Under a minute or just roughly a minute to drive over 80 yards and get a touchdown. The odds aren't in your favor. And then the monsoon comes. And it's just, you can only laugh. It was the perfect cherry on top for just a terrible, terrible, ugly game for the Ravens. But for the most part, Lamar played really well, in my opinion. And you consider the rain, you consider the fact that they were down for the entire second half. The way he played was exceptional. They were down 13 after the 4th and 1 didn't work. Ensuing drive, 11 plays, 75 yards, touchdown to Willie Snead. On that drive, Lamar Jackson had one incomplete pass, and it was a drop by Willie Snead. It hit him in the chest or it hit him in the hands. He dropped it. He did not have a bad pass on that drive. He had one incompletion on an ugly drop. Lamar Jackson, down 13 in a terrible, terrible weather game on the road, led his team to a crucial touchdown drive to make it a 6-point game. Mind you, if that's not enough for you to tip your cap to Lamar and say, hey, that was a pretty damn good drive. The first play of the drive, check down pass to Nick Boyle. Season-ending injury. Not only season-ending, gruesome season-ending injury. And that has an effect. You're down 13. You're trying to come back in this game. Everything is gone against you in this game. First play, you lose one of your essential offensive players to an ugly, nasty injury where he has to get carted off, and we all saw what happened to that knee. That is as demoralizing as it gets for an offense. They could have easily packed it up right there and said, all right, that's it. Tonight's not our night. This sucks. Let's go home. Let's get out of here. But they kept it going. A couple plays later, you had a botched snap by Matt Skura. A couple plays later, an 18-yard completion to Mark Andrews gets called back for another illegal formation. How many games in a row have we seen an illegal formation? I think it's 4 games, maybe 5. Enough. I said it was enough 3 weeks ago. Enough. I'm sick of it. No more illegal formations, please. You're a professional football team. That should be the easiest penalty to avoid. Line up on the damn ball. They can't do it. 18-yard completion to Mark Andrews. Huge play. Would have been a huge play on that drive. Gets called back for an illegal formation. All of that happened. Bad snap. Illegal formation. Boyle injury. Torrential downpour. Down 13. On the road. Lamar leads a touchdown. One incompletion was a bad drop to Willie Snead. Credit to Willie Snead. Comes back. Goes up and grabs an absolute bullet in the end zone for the touchdown. Lamar finishes the game 24-34, 249 passing yards, adds 55 on the ground. And was it 2 touchdowns? Because I keep seeing all these different box scores. Yes, it was 2 touchdowns. That little shuttle pass, pop pass to Willie Snead early in the game counts as a pass and not a run. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I was damn impressed by Lamar Jackson. And I'm not saying this is something that he wasn't capable of, but that drive told me that Lamar Jackson is capable of blocking out all the bad stuff that's happening to you. Because you look at the playoff games, 2018, last year against the Titans, they got down. It looked like everyone said that, oh, it's in Lamar's head. He gets dejected. He gives up on himself. He can't rally the troops. Everything I just told you that happened on that drive, that's as bad as it gets, man. That is as bad as it gets. That is, I can't think of anything else you could possibly do to shoot yourself in the foot. Self-inflicted wounds or just freak accidents with the Boyle injury. And yet, 11 plays, 75 yards, 1 incompletion, touchdown. I'm going to keep saying it because it was a damn impressive drive. And I thought that showed there was a lot of maturity out of Lamar. That was a lot of growth from, and hopefully a sign of good things to come. that if for some reason in the playoffs or somewhere down the road, years from now, they're in games that just aren't going their way for whatever reason, he is capable of rallying the troops and leading these drives. And for that, I was very impressed. And I don't want to hear, that I'm being a blatant homer or I'm a Lamar fanboy for that. I think that's just a fact. By the same token, he couldn't do it again for the remainder of the game. They had a couple more possessions. But again, the self-inflicted wounds didn't stop. The bad snaps did not stop. The penalties didn't stop. The rain didn't stop. So there's only so much you can do. And if you look the second half of that Colts game, the way he played in this one, that's 2 road games rebounding from a very ugly game against Pittsburgh. I mean, it was just a couple weeks ago we were talking about, hey, is Lamar regressing? Is Lamar, not the real deal? Was last year a fluke? I think he's answered that. These past 2 weeks have been pretty damn good for Lamar. So we'll move on from there. Injuries, big thing. I mentioned it earlier in the podcast. That was my biggest takeaway. You lose the game, it's whatever. It happens. You know what? You're going to lose games in the NFL. That's not my concern. But the injuries. We know Nick Boyle's done for the year. How are you going to replace him? You certainly can't replace his production or what he provided to the team. But now you're in a scenario where you only have one tight end on the active roster, and that's Mark Andrews. Now, before this game, there were rumors, or it actually happened, that former Seattle Seahawk Luke Wilson also spent some time with the Raiders but never made their team. He was a star on Hard Knocks. If you watched Hard Knocks with the Raiders a couple of years ago, Luke Wilson was in there. Pretty good personality guy, fun-loving guy, good sense of humor. So he was a star on Hard Knocks, but didn't make the Raiders team that year. But he has been bouncing around the NFL for quite some time. They worked him out. Nothing is official yet, I don't think, but it would not surprise me to see him get signed, especially after this Boyle injury. But at the same time, you just can't replace what Boyle was giving you. It's no discredit to Wilson or really anybody. You just can't replace that. There's nobody on the Ravens practice squad right now. There's no one in free agency that's going to give you and provide you even anything close to what Nick Boyle was giving you. So in that regard, it's a devastating injury and very concerning moving forward for me in terms of how this Ravens offense is going to operate, because that's now 2 guys, like I said, your 2 best blockers between Ronnie Stanley at left tackle and Nick Boyle as the best blocking tight end in the NFL. They're done for the year. There's no replacing them. The skill gap, we talked about it at left tackle between Ronnie Stanley and I'm not going to say Orlando Brown because he would have been out there at right tackle anyway, but the skill gap between at the tackle position between Ronnie Stanley and DJ Fluker is just immense. It's immense. I mean, we saw Fluker get pulled from this game at right tackle, and they put Patrick McCary in at right tackle, for God's sake. I mean, it's starting to look really ugly on the Ravens offensive line, and maybe they get Tyree Phillips back at some point, and maybe they can add somebody. I don't know, but it's not looking good. And the Boyle injury it could be devastating. We'll just have to wait and see. But I'm hearing people say, "Oh, just another reason why they should have held on to Hayden Hurst." And hey, I like Hayden Hurst. He's a great guy. Thought he was an exceptional tight end. That's why we were happy for him to see him go to Atlanta and get a starting opportunity. Would be pretty nice to have a guy like him around right now, for sure. But you traded him for a second-round pick. You got pretty good value in return. That's not so much my issue. My issue comes in with you didn't bring anyone in before the season started to replace him. You decided, we're okay rolling into the season with 2 tight ends. And now you can see that has come back to bite you in the butt. Again, I'm not saying you would have been able to add anyone crazy good like a Hayden Hurst or anyone that's as good as Nick Boyle in terms of blocking. I'm not saying that you would have been able to find someone like that. But just having someone in there to start the season, someone that's been in practice with you since week 1, it makes the difference in the world versus bringing someone in mid-season who doesn't know your playbook, hasn't practiced with you at all, and saying, hey, here you go, we need you to do this, this, and this, and take on a pseudo starting role, or virtually what will be a starting role. So maybe in that regard, the practice squad guys that they have, they're two no-name guys. I couldn't tell you their names right now. I think Harbaugh mentioned them in his press conference yesterday. You can look them up. But in that regard, they have been around. They have been practicing with the team. They do know the playbook, so I guess that's an advantage for them. But they're practice squad guys for a reason. There's guys in free agency like Luke Wilson that you could bring in, but it's going to take them some time to get acclimated. And they don't really have the benefit or the luxury of having that time to get acclimated. Like, you're going to bring a guy in, he's going to have to go out there and perform right away. It's just not a good situation. So not disappointed that they traded Hayden Hurst. I thought it was a decent enough trade. Got a second-round pick in return. But to not, to feel okay rolling into the season with just two tight ends, not good. Not good. Should have had another tight end on the NFL, on the 53-man roster that's practicing with you, that's learning the playbook from the jump. That's just my opinion, and right now it's come back to bite him. All right, let's wrap things up. Let's move on to the Titans game. We know who's coming to town on Sunday. The Tennessee Titans will be coming here. A rematch of the divisional round upset where they came to Baltimore, knocked off the powerhouse Ravens on a Saturday night. Yep, Saturday night. We all remember it very well. Only thing good about that night was the weather. Surprisingly warm for January. But other than that, it was as disappointing as it can get. And who led the way for that Tennessee Titans team? It was Derrick Henry. And he ran all over that Ravens defense. And what did they do in the offseason? Ravens defense made it a point to add run stuffers. They add Calais Campbell. They tried to add Michael Brockers. It fell through, but they add Derek Wolfe. We saw Brandon Williams go down. We know Calais Campbell probably won't play. Just wanted to mention real quick, Derek Wolfe, kind of an unsung guy so far this year. Part of that starting trio on the defensive line that we know what he can do. We knew what his resume was coming in as a free agent. But I think you saw in the second half on Sunday just how good Derek Wolfe is. He made some plays by himself where he blew up the line and got a tackle for a loss or stuffed someone right at the line. And I know the run defense as a whole took a hit, but you saw some flashes of what Derek Wolfe is that I think up until that point had been hidden because he's playing alongside Brandon Williams and Calais Campbell. That's going to be the key for this Sunday. The Titans, coming off of a loss, a division loss to the Colts, they played on Thursday, so now they're on an extended week. They have even more time to get ready, get healthy for this game than the Ravens do. And when you look at how many injuries the Ravens are nursing right now, that is not a good thing. So Titans are the road team, but after everything we've seen with the coronavirus in the state of Maryland, it was announced that the Ravens will not be hosting any fans, not even the small contingent of close friends and family that we saw for the Chiefs game. This will be a truly an empty stadium like we saw earlier this year for the Cleveland game. No fans whatsoever. Not really the road team in that regard. So we'll see. It's going to be a tall task. And the key matchups, it's Derrick Henry. We know what he can do. Most intimidating running back in the league right now. That I don't think that's too controversial to say. Saw what he did in the playoffs. Up until this point, I thought this would have been a really exciting matchup if the Ravens defense was at full health on that defensive line, just to see that matchup between Henry and this Ravens rush defense, because up until the New England game, they had been fantastic. So I was very much anticipating that matchup, but right now with these injuries to Campbell and Brandon Williams, I am significantly less excited, and I am flat out scared at this point. So we'll see what happens. I would imagine they're going to come in and try to run the ball just like they did in the playoff game. And conversely, the Ravens offense, that Tennessee Titans versus the Tennessee Titans defense, look, I don't know enough about them. I don't know how much of a personnel change they went through from last year to this year, but their defense flat out stinks this year. But I don't know if it's the same defense they fielded in the postseason, because you saw the defensive effort they put together against New England in the wild card, and then what they did to neutralize Lamar in an MVP season in the divisional round. But they stink this year, I know that much. But we'll see If Mike Vrabel, I guess, I don't know, is Dean Pease still their defensive coordinator? Because he drew up a great game plan to stop the Ravens in the playoffs. We'll see if they can do the same thing here in this one, but just watching them so far this season, they can't stop a nosebleed. So if Derrick Henry gets going, starts putting up points on this defense, could turn into maybe a shootout. Could also see this being low scoring and grinded out possession type of game if the Ravens also decide to run the ball heavily. Could be a quick game. If the Ravens run the ball, if Derrick Henry's running the ball for the Titans, could be low scoring and a time of possession battle, so to speak. Right now, I don't feel comfortable picking this game. I'm leaning towards the Titans. Just these injuries are just becoming too much for the Ravens, in my opinion, and the Titans are a really talented offensive team. It's not just Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill's delivering some good passes this year. Ryan Tannehill has moved beyond game manager. He's got some weapons around him. A.J. Brown, some other guys. He's not completely hopeless out there. He's not a game manager. He's a legit passing quarterback. And when you add the threat of a running back like Derrick Henry, I think it makes his job even easier, but he's no slouch, so I have to give him credit. I don't have a score, but I will go with the Titans as of now. I'll pick the Titans to win this one. That's what's scary to me. This is the last thing I want to close on. We saw the Steelers win. They're 9-0, still undefeated. Took care of business against the Bengals. Ravens lose, they're 6-3. So there you go. You're 3 games behind Pittsburgh. Still have that Thanksgiving matchup on the horizon. But even if you win that one, you're at best 2 games behind them. And you would need them to lose, obviously, 2 games to have a shot there at the division. And I'm looking at the Pittsburgh schedule, and I just don't see that happening. And yes, they play Buffalo. They play Cleveland again, and that's a division matchup. I know they blew out Cleveland earlier in the year, but it's a division matchup. Anything could happen. So, could it happen? Sure. But I'm looking at these next 2 games, and as much as if you're a Ravens fan, you want to see the Ravens win on Thanksgiving in Pittsburgh, you don't want that to ruin your Thanksgiving. This Titans one is way more important. Just the fact. The Ravens are playing for a wild card. You do have the extra wild card spot this year. 7 teams will make the postseason from each conference. But the AFC is looking pretty tough this year. The Dolphins are 6-3. The Raiders are 6-3. The Patriots are not out of the mix at 4-5. The Titans are 6-3. So you do have 3 wild card spots, but this year the competition's looking pretty stiff. And if the season ended today, the Ravens would be the 7th seed. As crazy as that sounds, at 6-3, they would be the 7th seed. That's how tough the competition in the AFC is. So either the Colts or the Titans are going to win that division. The other one's going to be a wild card. You got to keep your eye on the Dolphins. I don't know if they're going to challenge the Bills for that division, but they're certainly in the mix for a wild card spot. The Cleveland Browns are 6-3. They are in the mix for a wild card spot. You have a meeting with them on Monday Night Football. I got to be honest, those head-to-head battles that you have with Tennessee and Cleveland are going to be the difference makers. It would be nice to beat Pittsburgh. It would be nice to run the table and win out. There's no doubt about that. But if we're talking about these next 2 weeks, the more important game is this Sunday against Tennessee. You need to win that head-to-head against Tennessee. Because if they get that head-to-head on you, you're out of the playoff picture right now. If I'm looking at the Ravens' schedule, I still think they're very capable of winning 11 games pretty easily. They play the Cowboys, the Jaguars, the Giants. That's 3 wins right there. And then you get what? You get of the remaining 4 games, Titans, Steelers, Browns, Bengals. If you could win just 2 of those, that would get you 5 more wins. That would put you at 11. The question is, even with the extra wild card spot, with how tough the AFC is this year, is 11 wins enough? I would hope that 11 wins is enough to make sure that you're at least the 7th seed in the playoffs, but it might still come down to head-to-head matchups at that point. So, you win 11 games, but you don't beat the Titans or you don't beat the Browns. Now you're looking pretty dicey. So this Sunday is very important, and it's not looking good from an injury standpoint. That's going to do it for episode 128. Appreciate you guys listening as always. I was mentioning it last week. Spread the word. Tell a friend, tell a family member, tell a coworker that you know is a Ravens fan. Tell them about the podcast. We got an episode every week, recapping the game, taking a look ahead to the next matchup. And we'll be here next week. It sounds like we'll probably have Jake back next week to talk about this Titans game, reassess where the Ravens are at. Would have been nice to get his thoughts this week. I'm excited to hear his take on this team with all the injuries that are mounting up.